I try not to act on impulse, but I can't help it. Which, to be fair, is the problem with impulse. Or the problem with me. I'll start again. I acted on impulse. I was sitting at the bus stop minding my own when I sees a girl standing in the middle of Fairwater Road with a beamer coming towards her. I gets her, sprints the 6 yards and grabs her out of the road. Impulse gets you into trouble. The sort of trouble that leads to Beachy Park, murder, going on the run and Billy the Seal. Seriously, there's a seal in this story. The thing that's always held me back is sharing. I've always hated it. Like when there's loads of you and they say, shall we get something to share? I'm like, no, I want my own plate of food. Sharing is dangerous ground. I once told someone that once mind you, I played with a Wendy house with my cousin in Melpas, little Justine. And every time I sees her now, they says, this person I told, they says, how's it going, Wendy? I always have a vision that I'm like some kind of lone wolf, I know, and that I'm really in a movie. I'm the central character, obviously. Alright, my story's a bit crappy and dirty and set in Fairwater, not LA, and I feel it's a bit of a bell end because, well, people like me are not supposed to have a story. But anyway, that's a load of shit. What I really want to tell you about is what happened on August the 18th last year. The story really starts before I saved a girl from being run over by a beamer, about 37 minutes before. I'm sitting in Oggie's, sweating. It's not a bad day outside, but for some reason he's got the heating cranked right up. I'm sweating so much, my bollocks is done. You know? The list began after her first attempt. A list of everything brilliant in the world. Everything worth living for. Number 1, ice cream. 2, water fights. 3, staying up late and being allowed to watch TV. 4, the colour yellow. 5, things with stripes. 6, roller coasters. 7, people falling over. All things that at 7 I thought were really great, but not necessarily things my mum would agree with. I started the list on the 9th of November 1987. I'd been picked up late and taken to the hospital, which is where my mum was. Up until that day, my only experience of death was that of my dog, Sherlock Bones. My Sherlock Bones was older than I was, and he was an essential part of my existence. He'd been really sick, and so the vet was called round to put him down. I forgot about the list until her second attempt just over 10 years later. Dad showed up halfway through chemistry. The same trapdoor feeling. Fight or flight. The same wordless drive to the hospital. As a teenager, I dealt with it less well. I wore my heart on my sleeve. The night she came back from hospital, she said that if it wasn't for the ham and pineapple pizza lining her stomach from the night before, she'd be dead. And I said, you took 3 weeks worth of antidepressants, a packet of aspirin and half a tub of antihistamine. You're probably healthier than I am. If you're going to kill yourself, go jump off a bridge. Instead of storming off, I sat there and started to shovel food in my mouth. I'd spent ages on this meal and I was furious that she was sat there wishing she was dead and letting her food go cold. There was a moment of absolute deafening silence. And then she started to laugh. It was such a genuine laugh that after a while I found myself joining in. Eventually, Dad got up and went to his study to listen to records. I couldn't sleep that night. I started to clear out my things, packing up the things I wanted to keep and throwing away the things I didn't. I found myself shaking. Have you ever had that? where your hands are shaking and your breathing is deeper and you're surrounded by bin bags full of your things and you realise, I'm really upset. I must be really upset. And then, underneath my bed, underneath some sticker albums and action figures, I found the list. I sat down on the floor and read it through. Number 1, ice cream. The younger me had dealt with this so much better. He wasn't self-righteous. The younger me was hopeful. Naive, of course, but hopeful. So, once I got to the end, I picked up a pencil and continued where that little boy had left off. After the wedding, Sam and I went on our honeymoon to Whitstable in Kent. We were so happy. The sun shone every day and we ate the most incredible seafood. We moved to London. We got jobs, a car, a joint bank account, a cat who peed on everything and then ran away. We called her Margaret Scratcher. We settled into a routine. We saw less and less of each other. We grew tired. We argued. We argued about money. We argued about whether or not we should live in the city or the countryside. We argued about whether or not we should start a family. There's one argument we had in particular. Sam told me that I should talk to someone professionally. Well, this made me so angry because I knew what depression was and I knew I was fine. I had a study at home and I used to sit in there and listen to records. I used to read through the sleeve notes, the making of the music, tortured geniuses. Albert Ayler, Ronnie Singer, Donny Hathaway, Chester Bennington, all amazing musicians, all took their own lives. Sam told me that I was becoming morose, that I was wallowing, isolating myself. She encouraged me to continue with the list, but I found it difficult to find new things. 826,978. 826,978. 826,978. The list ended. Just 173,022 short of 1 million. So, I boxed it all up and threw it in the bin. Sam packed up her things. I helped her carry the boxes to the car. I stood in our doorway and she looked at me from the car. That horrible feeling when something is broken and can't ever be fixed. The trapdoor swinging open, fight or flight, or stay as still as you can. I've been feeling like that for a very long time. Okay, so that was just 2 examples of character there that I have previously played, and hopefully you were able to see the difference between the 2 characters. So the first character was a drug dealer, and the second character starts off as a young boy, but then as an adult he starts to tell the story of the list that he started to write to kind of help his mum out of depression, and then realising later on that he too has his own mental health issues that he needs to face. I've got a list of questions here that you have sent me, so I'm going to read out those questions and I will respond to them. But first of all, I will just tell you about how I create character. So when I take on a role for a theatre production, it's usually one that I can feel some sort of connection with as soon as I've read the script. So I've got to like the character. And I like to develop an overall understanding of the play and what the meaning of the play might be and how my character fits into the playwright's ideas within the play. I work from, you could say, from the inside out, working on the thoughts and feelings of the character and understanding who they are, before then moving on to the physicality of the character. And so I work scene by scene. I will start with getting the vocalization and then adding movement and then adjusting the movement to fit the idea that I'm trying to show through the character. And I try and take the time to really understand what I'm doing and how all this relates to the character. So it's very naturalistic. It's Stanislavski-ish. It takes a lot of thought. I keep burping. And yeah, so it's very naturalistic, Stanislavski-ish, and I try and take inspiration from normal people in the outside world, so to speak. Okay, so moving on to the questions. Question number 1 says, along your career, have you had any moment of epiphany which has inspired your acting or approach to life? And I'll say that there have been several moments over the years that have inspired me to keep going. I started out in amateur dramatics as a teenager, but I didn't go to university until a mature student at 27, and it was here at university that I was inspired by my excellent teaching, by the lecturers, and this really confirmed my love for theatre and gave me an unquenchable thirst to continually seek out ways to always improve myself and what I'm doing. Audience comments after production also inspire me and give me the confidence to keep working, but ultimately I find that I need to inspire myself, and so I try to find ways to be creative or to learn more about my trade as an actor, as a director, or as a theatre practitioner as often as I can. I would say that you really need to love what you do, and as much as the work or the comments of other people can give you a push forward, you have to be the one to commit to the journey, if that makes sense. So number 2, what do you find the most difficult in acting? And I'm going to say learning lines. For me, it really takes a long time for me to learn lines, and I've got many different strategies that I use to try and help me. So the first rehearsals, when we have a read through, I will record all of the lines and then constantly be listening over to them. I also have one method where I will read through the script and then I will write down the first letter of each word of all of my lines. So I will go through the entire script and write down the first letter of each word, and then I will read back then those letters in the hope that I will remember what those words are. But for me, memorising lines is probably one of the most difficult things for me to do in acting. Okay, next question is asking, who was your inspiration when you first started acting? I would say my inspiration when I first started acting at a more professional level would have to be Michael Sheen. If you're aware of Michael Sheen, he's a Welsh actor, and whilst I was at university I was lucky enough to sing for him when he came to visit. And besides being an exceptional actor, I find that he's a genuinely warm and kind person who really cares about social issues, and he does a lot of work in trying to raise awareness around social issues that are relevant in today. I also like Johnny Depp. I find that he's got great versatility as an actor, and I really love some of the characters that he's portrayed, such as Jack Sparrow, Edward Scissorhands, and more recently obviously you've got Willy Wonka and the Mad Hatter. So all great characters, and also all really different and unique. And then lastly, I would also have to say the wonderful Dame Judi Dench. Okay, question number 3. Which roles do you find the most difficult to play? I would say that roles that I find that difficult to play would be ones that are polar opposites to who I am as a normal person, or characters that have some darkness to them. So a few years ago I was in
I was in an original play called Teddy Strides Tom, and my character was a schizophrenic, and it left me exhausted for weeks after the show had finished, because switching into those different characters and then being my normal self, but also having to switch the extremities of his emotions from high and low, I just found it really, really exhausting. Next question, what is it like acting out different characters? So I'm going to have to say that it's really, really fun. I really enjoy the challenge of learning a new character and getting to know that character and pretending to be somebody else. It can be tiring, and I find that it's important that you don't take your new persona home with you. You've got to have time to rest and be your real self, otherwise I feel that you will burn out and you're not going to have the energy left for your performances. So always have time for yourself and have time away from your other self, who is the character that you are playing. Okay. What emotion is hardest for you to portray when acting? I think all emotion can be hard sometimes to portray effectively. You have to get it just right. I find happiness can be really easy, as I'm genuinely a very happy person. But if I had to choose one, I would say sadness. I choose sadness because when we are acting, we draw on our life experiences to help us. And so to portray sadness, I need to think about sad things that have happened in my life, and then it can kind of leave a bitter taste afterwards, and it might take a while to get over. The memories that I've had to bring up and then act out a very sad or dramatic scene. Okay, next question. What is your favourite part about being an actor? This is going to be incredibly cliche, but I'm going to have to say everything. I love the whole experience, the whole creative process of seeing something from beginning through to end, and the sense of achievement that you get at the end of a production. I much prefer theatre to film because the atmosphere that you get just before you step onto the stage, the feeling that you get in the atmosphere that you can sense from the audience is spine-tingling, and to have the audience listening to your every word and reacting to what is happening is one of the best feelings, and I just can't describe it. But for me, being on stage, being in that moment has got to be my favourite part. Okay, are there any characters that you played that you have similarities with? I would say that most of the characters I have played I can relate to in some way, even if it's only very, very small. Most recently I went on tour with Every Brilliant Thing by Duncan Macmillan, and although my mum has never tried to commit suicide, I myself have suffered with depression, and so I've used my personal experience to really take on the role of not only the 7-year-old boy in that show, but also later as the adult, as he struggled with his own mental health. And I found it quite a cathartic release doing that show, and to this day it remains one of my favourite shows that I've performed in. Okay. Should I start off in acting school, or should I do small roles in plays and try to act my way up to larger roles? Very good question, and I think that's really, really relevant to the industry today, particularly with what's happened with COVID. I would say do what feels right for you. Personally, I could never afford drama school. I have a first class honours degree in applied drama, which taught me how to be an actor, how to control my voice, how to control my movements, physical theatre, but it also taught me how to write scripts and to use theatre to help people. And so after that I formed my own company so that I could create my own opportunities and also support people and support other people to do the same. And as I said, with the current situation around COVID-19, there's many big name theatres that are having to close down. I predict, or I feel that there will be a rise in small independent companies becoming successful. And the landscape of theatre will need to find a way of moving forward so that it can be inclusive for all people really, regardless of whether they went to drama school or regardless of how wealthy you are. So yeah, that's what I think is, if you can afford to go to drama school, that's great. If you get into drama school, fantastic, because it provides you with an excellent platform to springboard you into a great career as an actor. But I also think that setting up your own company or creating a company with your friends and making your own opportunities is just as valid and gives you just the same amount of experience. Okay, have you ever done any solo shows? Do you prefer solo shows to group shows? Yes, so I have done solo shows since I formed my company here in Thailand, Siam Drama Studio. I've done 2 solo shows, and it's what my focus is on my company here in Thailand is focus on plays with casts of 3 actors or less. And so I've really enjoyed the 2 solo shows that I've done so far, and it's good because there's only yourself to blame when things go wrong. With group shows though, you have the benefit of watching and learning from the other actors that you are performing with. So they both have their good points, and no doubt they both have their bad points. How do you deal with nerves before performing? Gosh, yes, nerves. Before I'm about to go on stage, I am a complete nervous wreck. I feel sick to my stomach, I've got to keep running to the toilet. So how do I control those? So I normally calm my nerves by giving thanks for the skills that I have and for the opportunities that I've been given, number one. And then I usually involve or do some sort of physical activity. So I might push up really hard against a wall for as long as I can. I might do some push-ups or some other physical activities such as jumping around. So the nerves is the energy that is building up inside you. And so find your own way to get rid of that energy, that extra energy. But some people just like to sit quietly on their own, and that is okay too. So find what works for you, and you'll be fine. Okay, last question. Which do you prefer, voice acting, physical theatre, or naturalistic acting? So most of the work I do is naturalistic in style, but may include some non-naturalistic elements such as physical theatre or Brechtian techniques. I like performing naturalistic, but I love the symbolism and spectacle that you can get from non-naturalistic theatre, particularly with regards to physical theatre when you look at like Frantic Assembly or Deviate. In my own directing practice though, I'm also currently looking into more site-specific and immersive styles of theatre. Okay, so those are the questions, and I hope I covered all the information that you were asking. If you'd like to ask me any more questions, then feel free to drop me a message and I'll be more than happy to get back to you. Okay.